welcome back to the Marshall Street podcast.
Yeah, we are joined today with Coach
G'day,
Steve Cannatelli.
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
Very, very, very welcome. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
All good. Do you want to just introduce yourself? Tell people a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name's Steve, and I have a company called Future Artist Development. Future Artist Development is basically like a one-stop shop for musicians to come from all the way from band coaching through to recording, through to doing videos, through to education, social media, the whole works basically. The company essentially revolves around band coaching, which is a program that I put together. Well, actually, Stu was the very first person to
playbook.
with the playbook. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
That's
Good
right.
time.
Did you coin the term coach?
That was Parker or Jamie.
Okay,
I
but
think.
you guys?
Yeah.
Okay,
that
cool.
was us, yeah.
I put him on the stand there. He's been claiming it. He's been claiming coach.
It was the playbook that gave me the name the coach. So and it just kind of went from there. And that it's funny because that essentially set up the whole branding for the whole thing. And it was just one night down at Fist to Face, wasn't it?
Probably back then.
Yeah.
Would have been Fist to Face, and then I think we moved into. We kept practicing at Frequency in Ringwood.
That's right. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. But that was when was that? 2013.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a long time ago. So basically the band coaching had been building since then. I can't say it was really something I ever thought I'd be doing for a living, but here we are. It just it started working. I mean, we saw you guys went to play with the
Story So Far, A Man Overboard.
That's right.
Yep.
And there was a significant improvement, and we were kind of like, oh, wow, maybe we actually got something here. And from the playbook, I went on to work with Void of Vision, Storm the Sky, Harbours, Stan Atlantic, and all those bands started succeeding also. And so it was like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe we got something here. And and then it was the Void of Vision boys that were really the catalyst for it all kind of coming together. When I got back from Europe at the end of 2017, those boys got on the phone to me and were like, Coach, you should really put this company together and we'll help you. We'll help you do whatever you got to do. But we've seen what it's done for us and we'd really like to be able to help other young bands. I didn't even realise, but while I was away in Europe, the Void of Vision boys had done the band coaching to a degree with the Thornhill boys and kind of nurtured them and brought them up as well. And, so it's kind of it's good that, bands and artists are paying it forward. And I love that the information's being shared and that people are succeeding, or at least it's a piece of the puzzle. So they're succeeding. So, yeah.
Definitely. Because it's such a huge... part of being an artist is that learning curve, and so going through it with someone who's been there, done it before, one, not only just cuts down your learning time, so you're actually going to be getting good information, but just that reassurance and support from someone who's in the industry, from someone who's done it before, just goes such a long way. I mean, I remember even the first times when when I had been introduced to dudes who you look at and like, fuck, dude, you're in the industry, man, like you're doing it, and when they tell you that bit of reassurance, like, dude, you're on the right path. Like it goes such a long way with up and coming bands, and sometimes that's all they need is just that push in the right direction. They're like, "Fuck, all right, let's keep going. Let's keep going for it."
Absolutely, and I mean, a lot of young bands. I mean, there is a lack of education out there right now. Where we grew up with Freezer, we were able to go to youth centres and get mentorship from guys that were in bigger bands, and they used to come in and do their talks and all of that stuff. With the lack of funding from the state government now, there isn't funding to put in. I mean, Freezer is essentially Battle of the Bands now, and a few odd shows here or there.
And Push Start if you're lucky once a year.
Absolutely, and Pushover Festival. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's gone.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
so I haven't heard about it for years. So
I think we played it the last year that it was on, and that was like 2013 or 14.
Yeah, crazy. What band were you in?
DYE.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So, with the, fall of that or the lack of funding with that, getting, guys from Void of Vision or getting guys from, Storm the Sky or Harbours or any of those, yours truly, the bands that are doing it, coming in and speaking to, young bands and letting them know the realities of what they're about to embark on, because it changes every 5 minutes now.
So what do you well, what are the main things that you see then as the realities of like the people that are starting out? Like obviously in the playbook, we used you as someone to refine our live show.
Yeah.
So obviously now that it's expanded and stuff, what are the kind of things that you see that young bands don't really understand?
So branding, campaigning, that at a young level, there's really not much use for PR because in this day and age, people click on articles when, not because it's something new, but when they know something, they'll click on an article because there's so much information flying at people. You know, you scroll through your newsfeed and what our parents were getting on a week, we get in a minute, you know, as far as information comes through. So, you know, for people to stop and actually click something and read through it, it has to be something of interest. And if you haven't created a buzz, people are not, it doesn't matter if you could get put in Kerrang, rock sound, all of that stuff. But if people don't know the name and they're not interested in it, they're just going to flick through the pages or scroll through the newsfeed. So
it's so funny that you say that because
it's a super good point.
Because like back when we were both coming up, in like when you were in Summerset Avenue and I was in the Spin Set, we thought that we had to do things like be in a magazine that they give you a CD and it just goes out and like you think that that's something and you spend. I found the receipt for it. It's fucking $700 or something.
Man.
That's on the cheap side,
and that's
bro.
on the cheap.
But you think that as a young band that this is going to help you, and it's like. But we didn't know. We just thought you had because we saw everyone else doing it, and that was the success of that company, I guess. Is that you know they're feeding off young kids that don't know that that isn't actually going to help them. It's the hard work. It's the fucking being around people. It's meeting other people and
running in the right
stuff.
circles.
Yeah.
And I think there's two sides to that. I mean, unfortunately, there is still companies who fucking take advantage of artists who don't know any better, and I will fucking happily call them out. Happy Mag, fucking take cash for fuck all. But on that, like when you were going through it, it was a different time. So back then, like I used to read Rolling Stone to find out about bands. So I think, you know, before we had fucking Facebook at scale and the internet and all this shit, back fucking 15 years ago, there definitely was some real credibility that came from being featured in press publications because that's people, it was a lot more clicky. All the clicks kept to themselves. So if you're in the heavy scene, you knew the fucking articles, you knew the magazines, and you actually did go and research new bands that way. Whereas, I think you're absolutely right. These days, you can build that buzz yourself, and in fact, it's flipped to the opposite, where just by having an article or something in a recognized publication, if you don't have the back, fans or hype to back it up, it's really all that's doing is validating nothing that's there.
Absolutely, man. And you know, like you said, 15 years ago, there was some prestige to being in those magazines, and kids would go out and buy those magazines because
I had a subscription.
That's
you
it.
look forward to getting the fucking magazine like every month. You're like, fuck,
what's going to be on the CD? You might find 3 songs that you like.
Yeah, that's it. But at least kids were going to the news agency and buying it. That doesn't happen
and
now.
music
Correct.
stuck around for longer back then as well.
Absolutely.
You
Now
have
it's
your
just-
CD in your car for 3 months or something.
Now you've got the tangible product, and it's I was watching. I'm a huge Tina Arena fan, love Tina. And I was watching her keynote speech from 2017 at Big Sound. And she made a very, very valid point. She's like, let's be honest with ourselves. Music has essentially lost its value to the consumer. It's a tangible product now. It's something that you put onto your phone and you listen to while you're in your car, and you've got 50 million other noises kind of coming at you that, may drown out a lot of what you're listening to. The days of going home and putting a vinyl on and lying on your bed and blocking the whole world out and listening to it. I mean, there are people that do it, but it's a minority now. People are about the song,
and you're
not
still
about
not
the body of
blocking
work.
everything out because you've still got your phone next to you, and if it buzzes, you're going to pick it up and look at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, and there's also a lot more sonic fucking graffiti
Noise.
and crap in what we do in today's age. Like, shit's fucking voice control these days. You can talk to a car, whereas, fucking 20 years ago, you put on a record and you listen to it. You had a phone there wasn't as many things which would create these fucking noises for us to listen to. So I guess music stood up, and then, there's a lot more sounds going on now where I think, you're definitely right. There's music has...
So how do you compete then?
Yeah.
Like, how do you think that, like, what do you guys give advice on? I know you've got a big team. Maybe explain that a little bit, and then say, like, how do you guys offer advice on that sort of stuff?
Absolutely. So basically, I've got a young lady that works for me, Maddie, And Maddie does a lot, not a lot, she does all the branding, marketing, campaigning for young bands. So basically what we do is, let's say, for example, the Playbook were just starting and you guys had your very first EP. We would build a campaign around that EP. And then not only do we execute it, but we show the artist how to execute that campaign so that they know how to do it in future. And Maddie also... They roughly receive a 40-page document as to how to release their campaign. So they do it with us once, but then they have the information to be able to go do it for themselves. Because, look, it's what a lot of these kids, when you go to, when you got management or a label or a booking agent, that's all good and well. They're gonna take care of that for you. But to go out and spend, X amount on every single campaign in this day and age, it's not needed. You just need to learn the information once. Yep. And if you're willing to take it on, then you can go do it yourself 50 million times later.
And you'll reap the rewards.
Exactly right. So it's essentially a one-time fee to get that information. If you pay attention, not only if you pay attention, but you've also got the actual book in front of you that, essentially maps out exactly how to do it in, without better use of terminology, layman terms.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't need to be a rocket scientist to read what we give you. It's in very, very basic, very, very basic English. And you could give it to a 16-year-old and they could take it on board, and you could give it to a 30-year-old and they can take it on board. You could give it to the old school, the 60-year-old still playing in a band and he'd still understand it. So we've done our best to make it universal and to make it for every single generation. The reason, again, why we do this as well is we feel it's, in this day and age, when you're establishing your brand, it's very, very important to be in creative control, because when you establish it, it's going out into the world that way and people are going to see it that way for the first time. And as we know, first impressions and last impressions are very, very important in the music industry. If we take it to the performance side of things, when you get on stage and you first kick into your set, that'll determine whether people pay attention or not. And when you play that last chorus or the last song or whatnot, that'll leave people either wanting more or not wanting more.
Or remembering you as well.
Absolutely. And it's the same when they see you online for the first time. They have to want to click it as soon as they see it. And I think it was Matt from Thornhill made a very, very interesting point, that people in this day and age, they don't want to see growth anymore. They just want to see it exactly how it is. They want to see, oh, what's this band? Cool, I know what this is about upon first glance and upon first listen. They don't want to hear something that is, oh yeah, this is on its way. They just want to hear it done. And I've got to agree with him on that 100%. You look at the way Thornhill came out, the first time you heard of that band, it was like, here's a new signing to Unified. You know what I mean? And here's Thornhill's EP. And that was really the first time anybody had heard of Thornhill. But then, boom, you see Thornhill on tour with Void of Vision. Boom, Thornhill on tour with Polaris. And everything from the get-go was of substance. And that gives the impression to the audience of, here's the next big up-and-coming band, which they absolutely were, and now they are the bands in that genre that kids are looking up to now. Polaris are off around the world doing their thing. North Lane are off around the world. Void of Vision are off around the world. And now everybody's got their eyes on Thornhill as the next big Australian prog band, essentially. And it's because they did it right. They did it, they applied the formula.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps throw on someone like Unified. Like, that's going to open a lot of fucking doors. Because I kind of disagree with that. I think fans and consumers, I think there's definitely a space for them seeing the journey and growth of an artist. I
would say that to be like the in-between of the two, you have to be able to start somewhere. You have to recognize that you have to start somewhere. And I guess for the bands that don't have these avenues, I mean, we're talking to you, so you are an avenue. Marshall Street's also an avenue.
Yep.
But for the ones that don't have that, they still need to have something. They can't exist and drop the best thing that has ever existed. So
I think if I was giving advice, I think that could potentially be not the best mindset for an artist starting out, because they'll stop themselves releasing things. When I think that those first year, 2 years, like no one who is ever good, who has been around for fucking longevity, they'll look back and be like, yeah, we were shit for fucking 2 years. But I think that's super important in the artist's journey, is to get that out, to find out, cool, how do we play live with each other? So I think if they get into a mindset where they're not showing the public that journey or that progress, because they're waiting till they have this perfect album to drop and then they're going to get picked up straight away and all these tours are going to happen, because I just don't think that happens all that often. I mean, there is definitely bands where it does happen, but with what we have now available through Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, stories, like, you can build your own buzz and reputation and get fans by putting out shit consistently. And then the question is, cool, are your music, is it getting better? It might be a song in 5 years that fucking catches, but you've slowly picked up fans all along the way. They've seen your journey. They've watched you fucking play this shit gig and that one. And then they're like, fuck, this is good. I've watched him when he was shit. You know, there's that kind of, that sense of humans always want to be like, oh yeah, I was into this TV show before it was big. Like, remember I told you about this one. Or
totally.
I listened to this album before it was fucking commercial. So I think there definitely is examples where when things are in a line, things can just fucking go out of control. Like 1-4 in the last fucking 6 months have blown every fucking act in this country out of the fucking water. But they're a one-off, we'll say. And I think if that's your strategy to get to where you want to go, I think there's not better, but I think the odds are more in your favor if you're playing the long-term game and constantly showing people who you are, being out there and not waiting for this perfect time to release things.
I'd like to agree with that. I would, but everything in the last 2 years has shown me that's not what it's about anymore.
So in the heavy scene, which is where you predominantly are,
Pop punk heavy, yeah.
Pop punk, like what is your experience then? What do you see?
Get the songs, shop it to as many labels as possible, build your management and booking, build your team essentially.
Yeah.
Right? Then execute it onto the world. Make sure that your booking agent's got you on the right tours and go out there and smash those tours in front of, 500 people, 1,000 people a night. Even if you're an intermediate band or a beginning band, now what I'm seeing is bands jumping on the stage for the first or the second time, playing to massive, massive audiences, and then going around the world and doing that, and they're learning as they're playing to massive audiences, as opposed to going to pubs on a Wednesday night and playing to 10 people. Because let's face it, we've all been there. There is absolutely no worth in going out and playing to 10 people on a Wednesday night. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of your time. And yes, it might be good for your development, as in character building, resilience, and all of that stuff. But you're not actually getting out of it. You're actually spending money for nothing. Because if you think about it, every time you go out to a gig, right, you got to play a gig. You got to put petrol in your car. You might have to pay for dinner. You might have a couple of drinks while you're out. There's another thing, you might have to, put new strings on, do all that stuff. You're looking at roughly per member $100, right, to go out and play a show. Now, if you're a 5-piece band, that's $500, right? In my opinion, in this day and age, you're far better in putting $500 in the bank, right, for when it's go time, than putting that money into a Wednesday or a Thursday playing to 10 to 50 people. Yeah,
well then I guess I think that it's valid to watch your money then. Like I guess watching your money is a super important point of being in a band, because we've all, like you said, we've been there.
Yeah.
There's times when you just spend money and you don't realize that you have.
Yeah.
So then I guess what I would say, taking both of those sides of things, it's kind of like you have to be aware of what you're actually wanting to get out of it.
Absolutely.
And it's also very difficult, I think, and it's a little bit idealistic to think that anyone can get anywhere without hard work. So what you're saying is put in a lot of hard work, write really good songs, work with good people.
Yep.
And I guess you and me, from where we come from in Marshall Street, is like, you have to show the people that don't know you that you are putting in those hours and putting in that work. And because I think it's really important that you see that someone is, this is my life. I live music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, a band that I think did it really, really, really smart is a band called Yours Truly, right? Now they did, they maybe did, I don't know how many shows, but it wasn't a great amount of shows before they got picked up. But what they did was they got a video on, they wrote an amazing song called High Hopes, which I believe is probably in my opinion, the best Australian pop punk song in the last 10 years. I know that's a big call.
Massive.
Right?
Yeah.
But it is on Dreambound. It's had over 4 million hits while the band was unsigned, and it sold over 30,000 units while the band was unsigned, right? There is no other band in Australia, I can tell you now, that was unsigned doing those figures, right? And it all came down to the song.
Yep.
And that band let that song grow online for a good solid year, I would say, right? Then when they created that online demand, and then they had, I think it was like 4 or 5 labels after them, and they got themselves the best deal because of that, right?
Yep.
So going out and playing on whilst we come from an era where there wasn't the internet and we had to go out and expose ourselves, you can put a video up online or a song online now and expose yourself to more people than you ever could playing live.
Absolutely.
And with that, once there's a demand, then you put on a show or you're playing a show, those people that have been waiting and waiting and waiting to see you based off these 1 or 2 songs can then come out and see you play at, the Corner Hotel or something like that, as a main support, of course, for a bigger band or whatnot. And you'll bring value to that tour or to that show because there may be 50 or 100 people out there waiting to see you play. Whereas, and you don't really, we're talking, they probably spent, roughly $1,000 on that song, or maybe with the video, let's say between maybe $1,000 and $3,000. And then you look at, something like iTunes sales, for example. Let's say everybody paid $1, right? And they sold over 30,000 units. It's a pretty good return. You know what I mean?
Huge. But does it happen though? Does that happen?
Is that a one-off?
No.
Like
Stand Atlantic did it as well with Coffee at Midnight.
Yeah. Do you reckon? I think it could. It's hard to say because I don't know. Are people buying music anymore? There's all streaming. Like
yeah, I mean, look again. If you look at the numbers, let's say 4 million people, right, have watched the video. 30,000 people bought, right? So I don't even know what the percentage of that is, but it's still a small one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So people are predominantly streaming music, and a lot of bands' income now is coming from Spotify streams, even though it's still minuscule. But if you're getting millions of streams, there's still revenue to be made there.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's still extortion on Spotify's behalf.
The argument that Spotify does nothing for artists is bullshit, in my opinion.
Correct.
Like, how can you get the exposure any other way? Like without, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all that sort of stuff, which is exactly what we're talking about, the ease of, access to music these days. Like, it didn't exist back then, and it was super hard. Like, you have to fucking play in front of 1,000 people every single night, which is impossible, like, unless you have that. So, like, the argument that it isn't helping the, digital stuff is bullshit. And when I hear it, I'm like,
it's just
you're looking at things the wrong way.
But their mindset's wrong. That, to me, has a fucking very immature mindset about what game they're really playing. Because if you're looking for Spotify as your main income stream, you're leaning on it you're misusing what it is. What it is an exceptionally powerful fucking tool that 98% of the first world listen to consume music that they didn't know the day before. They listen to playlists. This is the only and best chance you have at fucking people who have got no idea who you are, who your band is on the other side of the world to listen to your shit.
Agreed.
And that's it. But when people are, but they don't pay, then get a fucking job, dude.
Agreed.
It's like going to your job because it pays well and going, but the food is shit. Well, fuck, then what's important to you? Like, this is an avenue to create awareness around your music, use it for what it is, and then now be fucking clever. Like, guess what? It's almost 2020. Times have changed from living off fucking CD sales at $30 a pop. The kids were eating like fucking Skittles. Now you have to have more than one income stream. You have to be fucking clever. Just from being in a band, there is so many other avenues that you need to be competent at, and not just competent, but fucking good. Like that Lil Nas X track, Old Town Road. that blew off TikTok. There was some fucking genius strategies that went into that, getting that attention that it did. Most artists these days who get big are strategic fucking geniuses when it comes to online platforms, man. These guys, it's not luck. Like, there's a lot of artists out there putting out music who don't make it, and there's the guys that do, and you get real attention. There is real thought and there is real process into it. But I think it's misuse of platforms is one of the biggest things that I fucking see, and it's usually down to the people in the band or the artist or the producer. They're usually scratching their own ego at the detriment of the growth of their band, because they're like, oh, TikTok's for kids. Oh, we're better than that. You don't get what game we're actually playing then.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100% with everything you just said. Absolutely. You know, I guess the best example I use when I teach, when I band coach, the best example of, I think, a band that really did it right for the times this time around was Stand Atlantic, right? Now, Stand Atlantic,
They're
as we know,
a fucking good band.
Great band, really good band, write great songs. Their producer, Stevie Knight, is a wizard.
He's a machine.
He's a machine.
Between you and me.
Oh,
there
nice.
You go. That's one for your,
with Confidence,
for your
yours
taste,
truly, Stand Atlantic. He plays in the Dead Love. Like,
really
Stevie, he's just got, like, I mean, he doesn't do mixing and mastering from what I know, but he does songwriting and tracking.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, Stand Atlantic were around for 6 years, right? And they were doing
we played with them back in the day with the Spin Set tour. They were called What It's Worth.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Where they had that song Romeo or something like that blew up. But yeah, like, so that band there was slugging it out for 6 years. And they literally found them, you know, they called me up, when was it? I think I worked with them around March, April 2016. And look, you know, the band was, at that point, they were a 4-piece, a different 4-piece to what they are now. And they were, you know, dancing over the line of, where do we go with this? Do we break up, or do we, you know, continue on, but in what direction? So, you know, as essentially a last ditch redemption, and the band would admit to that too. They were like, all right, let's get a bunch of money and let's go in and see Stevie Knight, right? So they got their money together. They went in and they saw Stevie. Stevie saw the same, I guess, look on their faces as what I saw. This band really wants to do it, but they just keep hitting walls, you know, because the way that they're doing it is not for the times. And with that, Stevie turned around and said, right, guys, we're going to make an EP that changes your lives. And that was the Sidewinder EP. Now, with that, Stevie and a couple of other people, including myself, we helped the band build a team. We did a handshake agreement at the time with Matt, who used to play in Milestones, and he took on the band for management. Now, the advantage to this was Matt didn't have any other bands at that point in time, and he was looking to get into the management game. Now, we knew Matt was in Milestones, and that was a well-respected band, and he was a well-respected guy. We knew that he was going to be traveling around the world speaking to other artists, so it's like, cool. All right, Matt's a great option. He's a really nice guy. He believes in the band. Matt took the band on and he started going around the world being like, hey, I'm now managing, and check out this band I've got from Australia. Then he got the band signed to a 1-record deal with Rude Records, right? The advantage of this was Rude Records is a small Italian label. They didn't have a pop punk band with a female singer, right? So their team, which is roughly of 8 people, was super excited to have them on board and pushed them onto the UK and Europe to the point where Stand Atlantic was selling out shows in the UK but couldn't pull 30 people in Australia, right? So they did, you know, Europe and the UK maybe 3 times. Then the profile of the band had built to a point where Hopeless were like, hell yeah, this band's awesome. And they jump in. They didn't even need to buy them out of a contract. So Rude Records got what they wanted out of it, which is they now own the Sidewinder. Well, not own, but, you know, they've got Sidewinder EP. That's not on Hopeless Records. That stays on Rude. So as big as Stand Atlantic still get, they're still selling copies of Sidewinder. The advantage of having the 1 record was that Hopeless could come in and go, hey, let's grab this band. They didn't need to buy them out of a contract. It was a very easy transition.
I think they're known for doing 1-record deals as well, Hopeless.
You mean, no, Hopeless is
Rude.
a 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Hopeless is a 3-record deal, 3 to 4 records, Hopeless, and then Rude Records was a 1-record deal.
Okay, yeah.
But again, that was because Matt had the foresight to go, hey, this band's going to blow up, but I just need somebody to grab a hold of it for now and take it, you know, to places that
it can't at the moment.
Can't at the moment. Now, with that, and I'm sure the band would admit to this too, the 6 years prior to them getting signed. So as soon as they did that, their very first, Stand Atlantic's very first national Australian tour was with Newfound Glory, right? So boom, straight on with Newfound Glory, straight overseas with Rome, then doing Slam Dunk Festival, doing Galaxy Camp or whatever it was with State Champs, all of that stuff. The 6 years prior to that was, and it was, I mean, it was essentially wasted time because, you know, you can't actually, I can't say it's wasted time.
I would never look at it as way, because that's when you go through the growth and developments. Like if they didn't get pushed to a point of, fuck, we got to get our money together or the band's over, you don't end up with this product.
That's a fair point.
Like, and see, with anything, that's the time, you know, it's wasted, that's when we go through the development and the growth to realize where we're at.
And they were super young when they first started as well.
Yeah.
So you, as someone that's immature and when you're 18, 19, you don't necessarily make good choices then. And, you know, some bands do, and they're, again, I would probably say that they're the minor or the you know, the 1%ers where they get famous at 20, 21. It's like, you know, you got, like you said, you're building a team. Like there's all these different pieces of a puzzle that you have to put together that I think when you're a young band without guidance, you're lost.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, and essentially, you know, the three of us having been through it and, you know, lost money, made money, you know, had friends, you know, all that, you know what I mean? Like
met shit people,
you know, the whole thing. Having the, I guess, you know, the creative scope, let's look at that. The creative scope is like huge, right? And with a creative mind, the blessing and the burden of the creative mind is that you have so many ideas going around, but the burden is it just becomes a whirlwind in your head, right, of ideas. People like the three of us, we're here to take young people's thoughts and put them into a linear progression so then that they can execute it accordingly, right? Unfortunately for us, we didn't have people like that around, you know? It was just a whirlwind of thoughts. And then when you get to a certain age and you're like, okay, now I can put it into a linear progression because I've got the maturity, I've got the know-how, but I'm not 18 anymore, so therefore my time's passed. You know? Well, you know, not time's passed, but, you know, the days of taking it around the world and, you know...
Your body doesn't work the same when you...
Absolutely. And there's also...
when you've drunk 50 beers a night.
Yeah, and like what you were saying before about multiple revenue streams, you know, one bit of education I usually, as soon as I start with the band, the very first thing I say to them is, if you're looking to buy a house and car out of this, don't bother, right? If you're in this to have a good time and get around the world around the world ticket on somebody else's dollar and play to, you know, some great shows and be sustainable while you're doing it, awesome. But then build your profile, start your own business, and then start using your audience as your client base and start pulling that in, right? That's where you'll start to make your money, right? You're not going to make, you know, out of $10,000 a show, let's say hypothetically, and then your expenses are, you know, $6,000 and you're clearing $1,000 a show or, you know, after tax $800 a show or whatnot.
You're not making money.
You're not making money. You know, then you got to eat 3 meals a day and you're out all the time and all of that. It's only so long you can eat Macca's and KFC for before you have to start eating healthy. So, you know, you're looking at anywhere between $40 to $60 a day eating out if you choose to do it that way. You're not making much money.
Nah.
You're coming home maybe with, you know, a few thousand in your pocket, and by that maybe 10,000 in your pocket for 3 months' work. Big deal. You know, you can go to Macca's and do that. So it's got to be about
life experience and having a good time and enjoying yourself while you're in. And
I remember even there was a time when this is when I became conscious of it. So how long it was dwelling under the surface, but there was a point when I just wasn't happy. because of a release we'd put out that didn't do as well, or we didn't get the support. There was some external fucking thing that I wanted, and that when it didn't pan out the way I was down. And I remember the thought process in my head. I was like, fuck, you need to get back to making music for why you started, because it was enjoyable. Like, I liked being in the fucking lab with Zal. I liked making fucking tunes. And then somewhere along the way, it got mixed up with all these external shit. And that's when I found that it wasn't, I was looking for the symptoms of the byproducts to justify and validate why I was doing it, when it's, you've got to fucking enjoy it, because
Absolutely.
You're right. Otherwise, fuck, look at the, per hour, the time you spend into learning an instrument, to finding a band, to rehearsing, to fucking doing all this shit. Like, fuck it, it's the hourly rate fucking artists that getting his fucking, you think Spotify pays shit, man?
Absolutely. Even Gene Simmons came out and said, I think they asked him, what advice have you got for the young musician? He was like, don't. Simply as that. He's like, don't. He's like, you're not going to get the return.
And they're the key, I don't know if anyone listening knows about their contract, but Kiss's contract is famous that they fucking signed something they shouldn't have, but they received 0 royalties off their music. That's why they merged out so hard.
Yeah.
Part of the stupid thing that they signed was they get 0 from their music sales.
And at the time when they got signed,
we were a band who's going to sign a deal saying we get nothing from music. But they merged out like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's, it was a different age, but fuck, he's doing all right from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in Tina Arena's keynote speech, that was another thing she said. She's like, to the young artists, what advice I got for you? Do it because you love it. She's like, because then it won't matter whether you make it
That's
or
exactly
not.
what it
She's
is.
like, it's just the fact that you're playing. She's like, you need to eat, breathe, and shit it.
And this is the thing that like people that aren't creatives don't understand as well.
Yeah.
And there's times in my life where I've had trouble trying to get that point across to people, and I think it's not anyone else's fault that they can't think the way that an artist thinks, because they're thinking like laterally. They're thinking like, work leads to money.
Yeah.
That's how the general public thinks. So as an artist, work doesn't always lead to money. So you have to love it, because there's no other way. If you don't love it, you'll quit.
Yep.
That's it. That's the equation. If there's no love, don't
and I think
do it.
not only that, but we've danced around something that's crucial, is that when you're not loving, or you're in it for the wrong reasons, or you think you watch fucking MTV Cribs and you're like, damn, I'm going to be fucking balling. I think that's when having the wrong mindset and the wrong things that you're looking for, that's what leads to mental health issues. Because then I think there comes in the very real conversation of, well, I set myself these standards, I work super hard, why didn't I receive it? Is it on me? Is it my fault? Or, I see this person, then you start comparing to others. And I think once if you're after those external factors, money, car, whatever it is, if they're the things that are driving you to do the work and not the fact that you love what you're doing, I think that's when mental health will become an issue, because at some point you just don't have that why. You don't know why you're doing that. You don't really believe why you're doing things, and that just leads to burnout, mental fatigue, whatever it is, plus the fact that the industry is riddled with drugs and alcohol. You're usually not sleeping well. Your diet on tour is fucking shit. All these things build up, and if you're looking for a superficial reason, whether it's money, or if you're looking for an external influence to give you that happiness as to why you're doing it, I think you're always going to end up disappointed.
Absolutely, man. It's everything you said, spot on. You need to do it for love, and everything. Look, there are some people that are brilliantly business minded, and will step into a band and they will play their instrument, but they will not write, and they will just completely take care of the business. You do need someone like that. You do need somebody that, I guess, isn't so concerned about the art, but is willing to carry the business, But if they love business, then that's awesome, then they're really going to love what they're doing.
That's their artistic expression.
Exactly
creative
right.
Creative expression,
Exactly right. I'll admit, I really love a lot of, I don't like the music industry. The music industry is, let's just say it's full of sharks in the water, but I absolutely love working within
this is why
music.
we build our own communities.
Correct. That's right.
To hope for a better music industry.
I have to admit, in the 21 years that I've been involved with music industry, so I started as an intern at Roadrunner Records when I was 14.
Roadrunner, I remember them.
At in Victoria Street in Brunswick, I think they were, or something like that. Oh, no, Rosser Street in Brunswick, that's it. They've been gone for a long time now. They had a merger with Warner, and I think they still are merged with Warner, but there's no Australian division of Roadrunner anymore.
Right.
And then, so when I was 18, I then went on to work at Shock Records for 3 years as well. And I really, really enjoyed that side of the coin, if you want to call it that.
They were distribution.
Shock were actually a label.
They were a label as well.
They were, yeah.
But so they were two things, but they did a lot of distribution stuff without actually being on a label. You know, a lot of labels just distributed through Shock because for Australian alternative music, I think they were the go-to. But
yeah, because you got to see, like, when in those days, Shock was only, I mean, I don't know what they take now, but back in those days, it was only like 30%. So it was a no-brainer. If you're an Australian band and you're already established in a scene, the scenes here was so small, then it's like, just get a distribution deal and see 70% of your money. You know, as opposed to get a record deal and see 20% of your money, you know? So it was, but that was very short-lived. Do you know what I mean? Like, that whole era was very short-lived. There were a lot of changes that went on, as we all know, all the changes that went on within the industry between 2005 and 2010, we were all just stabbing in the dark. We really were. There was no structure. Everyone was trying new things. I mean, MySpace was really
the early days of the internet.
Yeah, that's right.
And that threw a spanner in everyone's works because no one knew how to navigate it properly. There's a few bands. I remember, like, Arctic Monkeys got famous through MySpace.
Yeah.
And they were the highest selling band of their first album, first week of sales. They beat the Beatles. They were the first band from my memory to win at the internet and, you know, go viral, which, like, viral, we've talked about it's hard to go viral because things move so fast these days. It doesn't really exist. So, but anyway, go on. So you did Shock and then...
So, like all of that. And I always really, really enjoyed just being around it. And I have to admit, like, you know, there's guys in the industry now that I think are really, really doing a great job. Like, let's take Chris O'Brien. I mean, Chris O'Brien's been in the industry, you know, since the early 90s. He was Area 7's manager, Game Over's manager. I think he worked with Eskimo Joe as well. Basically, he runs Good Things Festival now. He runs Destroy All Lines, all of that stuff. Chris is doing some really, really great things for young bands, and he's got a great heart. And there's guys like that were around back in the day that have just a library worth of, you know, information. And, you know, Chris is one of those guys that will sit down with any young band and give them, you know, the relevant information they need to move on to the next level of their career. Whether those people choose to apply it, that's up to them.
Yeah,
but,
that's always the case,
he's, you know, there are guys like him, you know, there's...
Even Frank Verasso.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember back in our early days, we fucking sent him, had no right to really, but fucking, this is what I was doing back then, sending fucking dudes who you wanted to work with your shit. And like, fuck, he got back to me with like a breakdown of each track, you know, and it's full of bugs. Like, dude, this isn't fucking going to hit radio, but each track is like, this is your strong. It's like a page breakdown of it completely for free. Never fucking met him before. Like, I spoke with him on the phone. I kind of hassled him, so I was kind of strategic when I went about these things. But like, fucking, he gave me the time of day when most other people don't even answer a fucking email, and to sit down and break down, cool, each of your songs, this is why, this is where it can improve, this is where it could lead, you know, this is why it's probably not going to hit on radio, to just a completely fucking independent band who've done fucking nothing. So, you know, guys like that, it is, there are out there, but yeah, you're right, there is a lot of sharks in the fucking industry.
Yeah.
But they get found out. There's always going to be them. This is the thing. It's like, how do you navigate it? Well, you surround yourself with good people who know good people, and then you can avoid them because you have a bank of people that actually know their shit, that know the people to talk to, and then you hope that grows and those people don't get tainted by bad company.
Like,
and stuff like that.
if you have three people like this in the room with you, and then you walk in with someone else who one of us has had a bad experience with, or have seen them in the past, or know them for whatever, that'll be known. We'll let you know, and that person will not feel welcome in this herd.
Yeah.
Like you'll be able to feel that. So it's definitely right. Finding those good people to surround yourself by through artist coaching fucking courses, artist development, going to gigs, seeing who is a good. If you're playing a show and the dude who ran it was super nice and fucking got on well and just had good fucking ethics and everything was organized, it's like fuck, give him a follow up call, man. If the night was run like shit and you didn't get any info and everything was a fucking mess and the dude looked like the fucking crackhead, probably don't follow up with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when I started doing this, Stu knows, when I started doing this, when I actually announced it, and there are a few articles online, interviews and all of that, there was a lot of backlash. There was a shitload of backlash. There are a lot of high profile people being like, "What the fuck is this bullshit?" Blah blah blah, rah rah rah. All
artist
of that
coaching
stuff.
has a dirty name.
Yeah,
artist development, artist coaching.
Yeah.
For independence.
Yes.
Because of the shit people that have gone through and ripped people off. But
that's it. And I said to my team, because I was getting sent things from my team being like, "Hey, dude, this is posted here. Hey, what are you going to do about it?" I'm like, "Nothing." I'm like, "Don't comment on it. Don't even acknowledge it."
Yeah,
I'm
don't
like,
engage.
because at the end of the day, like, the right people know the right thing. And I don't need to
actions speak louder than words.
Correct.
Exactly. I don't need to justify myself to every single, without better use of terminology, shit kicker out there that wants to put their opinion online about something they don't know. I have a testimonials page that every single band that I work with writes about what they've just done with me. I say to them they can write good, bad, whatever. Right? The important thing that they're expressing exactly how they felt about the program and what they got out of it. Right? Mm. If you have an issue with what I do, go read my testimonials page. Then you'll probably shut up.
And not even that, but it's also like, it's in the same regard why these trolls and online people will go and fucking hate on anything, because it's so fucking easy to type. It's like, if your idea of coming back and sticking it to a fucking online guy who's just fucking throwing some hate your way, if your idea about how to shut him up is to engage the same actions that he did, you're a fucking idiot. It's like, go and execute on what you do. You know what shuts him up? Go and being a good fucking band coach for 10 years.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
That's how it fucking pans out.
Absolutely, man. And that was exactly, I'm like, well, what am I doing here? I'm giving young people education and know-how to build their own sustainable businesses and take it around the globe, so they don't have to work in a factory or they don't have to work retail or something like that they don't want to do while I'm doing a horrible thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm doing the worst thing in the world. It's like, man, I go to bed every night with a clean conscience and I wake up every morning with a clean conscience. I don't need to worry, even if they are high-profile people, man. Plenty of dickheads that are high-profile people,
the changing of the guard is coming. There's a lot of people who still have high roles in the industry who in 10 years won't, and the industry will be a lot different for it.
Absolutely. And, the other thing too is, being good to the young people, because they're the ones that come up to run the industry. And if they don't want you to be a part of it, you won't be, because you are only, the young people are the ones that do run this industry. We are now teachers, but they're the ones out there working. And they're the ones booking the shows. Guys like Ash Hull, 24 years old, dominating. I mean, he's been dominating since he was 18. But guys like that, a kid that went out to shows since he was 8 years old, and just built relationships with people, learnt. I mean, I think he was an intern at Unified for like 4 years or something like that. By the time he was 18, he was running, I think even prior to that, he was running shows that were pulling 1,000 people, off his own back under Ash Hull shows.
Yep.
Now he works at Destroy All Lines. And this influx of, which I think is fantastic, there's so many, great acts, international acts that Destroy All Lines are bringing out now. And it's because you've got the young dude like Ash who knows what's relevant, and then the older dude like Chris who's got the know-how. You put those two heads together, boom, away it goes. And it's great to see. And, the scene is much, much, much healthier for it. Bands that might not necessarily get a chance to play to 1,000 people are now able to, because there's so many tours going on. And with that, there are a lot more local bands, but those local bands are now not having to, it's not a shit fight to get a show. There's just so many more shows to jump on, and it's fantastic. I think that the Australian music community now is absolutely the best that I've seen it in the last 20 years. this is the most fun I've ever had being a part of it. And it's because, like you guys said, the sharks get caught out pretty quick now, you know, especially with social media.
Correct.
Do not work with this person, you know?
Fucking
Boom.
one post on Melbourne musicians and fucking half of Melbourne's going to be talking about you.
Absolutely, you know? And not only that, I think people are just genuinely sick of seeing themselves or their friends being taken advantage of or ripped off. And, even I have to admit, in the last 5 years of touring, I saw very, 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 very minimal drug and alcohol use. These bands now are they know that they have to do 14-hour drives overnight. They know that, some of their friends have been killed in doing so. They know that there is a huge risk involved in what they're doing. I think it was, the Sleep with Sirens tour I did with Storm the Sky back in 2015. We did 5 overnight drives in a row, no sleep. For 5 days. You can't be doing drugs and alcohol when you're doing that. You need to,
if you do, you'll fuck yourself.
You'll die.
Yeah.
You'll die, you'll stack the van. As simple as that, So, it's really great to see that young people aren't buying into, I think you touched on it before, like, the realities, band DVDs, let's say, for example, they show you 1 hour of the best times of 3 years worth of touring. They are not a reality. And a lot of these young kids, even ourselves, we grew up, watching these DVDs. We're like, hell yeah, I want to do that, And then you get out. Which one was it?
I watched like Body Jar DVDs, Millencolin, bloody all
Riding
those.
in
Like,
bands with
Sublime.
boys. The fucking Blink one. When they cut you up on the road.
Yeah. That's it, and all those DVDs, they
are the highlights.
They are the highlights, yeah. And then you get on the road and you realise that it's just a lot of van time. And
but this is what's cool about social media as well. The cool side of social media is you can share the downtime. Yes. And you can say, this is what I do. Yep. Like, I'm on tour. I'm fucking sitting in a van for 10 hours.
And not only that, but fuck, that's 10 hours you can do your own PR and talk to people on Instagram, go live. Like,
exactly.
Not gone are the days when, I'm in a car, I'm sitting here. Fuck, dude, you've got your biggest PR machine in your fucking pocket.
Yep.
Use
and
this
it's
time.
free.
Let's be effective.
Yes, free.
Absolutely.
And then here's the other one that's always fucking say, bands, if you're doing a decent tour, get a tour phone. Get a fucking, buy a burner phone with a number that fans can call and talk to the band in the fucking van. It's the dopest thing ever. Yeah. Like if you're hyped to see a band who's on tour and there's a number you can call and one of the band guys is going to pick it up while they're in the tour. Fuck, that's sick. That's the sort of stuff that builds fucking super fans.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. There's so much that you could be doing. Like we spoke about PR and putting money into PR, but that's the best public relations that you could probably do is
face to face.
100%.
Yep.
I think it was, it's a long time ago now, but when Korn released Follow the Leader, they did something like, I don't know, 20, 25 signings over the course of 15 days, and they were flying in a private jet and signing 15,000, people a day stuff or whatever. You can't beat that. You know what I mean? You can't beat, still to this day, you can't beat sitting down and speaking to your fans.
Yeah, 100%. Because they're the ones who give you a living off it.
Absolutely.
At the end of the line, people coming to shows is the reason you will or won't have to get a job. Yep. And I mean, J5, Jurassic 5, they came back for a reunion tour and they've been doing it for fucking like over 15 years. And one of the things they pride themselves on is they never leave a venue while someone wants an autograph. They'll stay there for however many hours it's needed. As if you're a fan there and you go to a J5 show and you want them to sign something, they will fucking be there at the end of it. They don't leave until everyone's gone. They're the last ones out there.
Yeah.
They're very clear. They're like, fuck, dude, there's a lot of people putting out music. There's a lot of fucking records. You don't have to buy our record. You didn't have to come to our show, but you did and we fucking appreciate it.
Yeah, there's that classic line at the start of the second NoFX live album. Oh shit, time to go to work. Because that is like a band's job is playing live, and part of that a lot of people don't think about is the hanging out with the fans. Like, if you're doing it smart, you're not just going to a show, playing a gig, and then hanging out by yourself. Like, there's so much more to it to capitalize on. And most of that is fan engagement. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, I think we're kind of we're pushing the time limit.
This was a good one. This was a good fucking chat.
Oh, awesome, boys!
We've gone into some good territory.
Before we go there, anything you want to plug? Anything you want to shout out? Any shows coming up?
See you at festival. It's festival season.
Yeah.
So if you're heading out to a festival, you see me around, come say hi.
Nice.
I'll be at, Good Things, Download, Unified, anything that's got heavy and pop punk.
Yeah.
So if you see me around, come have a chat. If you're a little bit confused about what I do, hit me up. My website's futureartistdevelopment.com. Check it out. Thank you for having me,
Awesome,
guys.
man.
Thanks for
for coming.
joining us, man.
No problem.
Bye.
Peace.
Later.